The meeting is now streaming live on Facebook. You know, sometimes I get the call, get on there and tell them how it all works, Joe. And then I have to say, I've got no idea what I'm saying it to, but I don't know how it all works. I'm only learning myself. But I got a feeling to go on here. Let's see if there's anybody on here. So just bear with me while I set myself up. There we are. There we go. The meeting on here. Let's see if there's anybody on here. So just bear with me. Okay, so the comments will appear here. I know that there are astronomical, astrological changes taking place in the universe. How do I know this? Because I feel it and I've looked into it deeply. And the vibration of the earth itself is increasing. If people are into something called the Schumann resonance, that is increasing quickly, more and more quickly all the time. And yo, Denise, and because we're on planet Earth, as its vibration increases, it's called the quickening, then it will impact upon the way our brain waves work as well. So things will appear to be becoming more chaotic, more rapid, and there hardly seems to be any space to process all the information that's coming on or coming in. And it almost seems like the world and its systems are falling apart. No matter where we look, there seems to be negative emotion, anger, resentment, self-pity, envy, jealousy, all these negative emotions. And I believe that there are unscrupulous forces who almost like feed on this negative emotion. So they will do everything in their power to manipulate situations that make people afraid. And maybe it's all part of some bigger plan. I'm not 100% certain, but I feel that it could be. So what would be the way to get out of it is to overcome fear. And what I found out through my own experiences, you can't just overcome fear by saying to yourself, I'm going to overcome fear. It's almost as if we have to walk through the things that we're afraid of, hand in hand with the universe itself. Now, you see, when I come on here, I've got no idea what's going to come out of my gob. So I have to play these things back to myself just to see what I've been saying, in case I've been saying swear words and things, which is very usual for me, but there we are. So what I've been told to do is, I gave a talk in the week to lots of general practitioners and medical people. And it was basically about how they're looking at the world the wrong way around. And what they try and do is, in order to help people to change their unhealthy behaviors, they give them more instructions, which most people have already tried, you know, but they just say, they shout them in a different way or give them in a different way. And that's called cognitive behavioral therapy. So it's, I'm going to think differently, and therefore I'm going to act differently, you know, and I can see that at some level that can work for some people, but most people know what sort of behavior they need to change. But despite their best efforts, they grit their teeth, and maybe for a week or two, they can try this new, healthier behavior. But as soon as they get tired, the old habits rebound, and back they get onto that treadmill of, that's also auto-regressive spiral downwards back into the old unhealthy habits. So I'm just going to put some slides up to see if I can sort of explain this in a different way. So just bear with me. I didn't know I was going to do this, but obviously you're having a lecture from Dr. Joe. Here it is. Now, I don't know whether you can see that. Maybe somebody could say, Amanda, it's nice to see you, love. I remember us being over there at University Hospital Aintree. Yes, I remember us having a little chat all those years ago. So I don't know whether you can see that, but basically this little talk's called Hacking Physiology to Change Psychology. And what that means is, it's not against cognitive behavioral therapy. It's just more or less changing CBT and turning it on its head right, and trying a different way. Because what actually happens is when we're afraid, we go into what's called the fight and flight response. And when we're in the fight and flight response, our heart rate speeds up, our blood pressure goes up, and we go into a defensive mode. And in that defensive mode, whether we think it or not, we can't think clearly because our mind is just set on get me out of here. And that's basically why we resort to old coping mechanisms, basically, which are scripted in the first 7 years of our life. So we jump back basically into childish responses to the way the world is. And obviously, in order to grow through this stuff and to become more and more fearless, what we have to do basically is change the way the heart works to change the way the head works. So let me just put a picture up here. So there's the brain, which contains the central nervous system. And generally speaking, health professionals will say to us, this is what you need to do. And they'll give us more thinking in order to change the way our bodies work and for us to take different actions. But I'm going to suggest something different here. I'm going to suggest that if we can, through mindful breathing and becoming aware of a positive emotion, we can actually send information back from the heart to the head. And what actually happens then is our brain waves change. We go from what's called a beta brainwave state into something called an alpha theta state. And in that alpha theta state, we're in a state of relaxation, but we're alert as well. So it's called relaxed alertness. And so that's what I'm going to try and do. And it's very, very simple to get into this, but your head, full of old habits and old ideas and based on past notions, it will tell you, oh, this isn't going to work. And that's where I was stuck for a long, long time. My head kept talking me out of this simple practice. And I'm only just working from my own experience. And have I got it cracked? Not at all. But I'm much better than I used to be at remaining cool, calm, and collected, even in the most trying of circumstances. And I'm still going through those trying circumstances more than people realize. So I just want you to look at this picture. And if you see this girl, this dancer, if you can see her turning clockwise, right, just make a note of it. But if you see her going anti-clockwise, make a note. Maybe on the chat you can say, if you see her going clockwise, say yes on the chat. Or just write clockwise. Or if you see her going anti-clockwise, put down anti-clockwise. And what generally happens is this is an indication of how your hemispheres of your brain are processing information. Because what's actually happening is, and some people will be saying she's changing, and I swear to you, she's not changing at all. What's actually happening is the way that you're processing the information in your brain is changing. See, two things. I've got Ria is saying clockwise and D is saying anti-clockwise. So this is really important, this. If at the same time two people are seeing her going in a completely different direction, it must mean that we're seeing the world in a different way. We're processing the information in a different way. And what actually happens is in fear and when we're afraid, we'll default to the mechanism that we developed as children. And that's why if you're a left brain processor and you're living with a right brain processor, that means when you're stressed, neither of you will be able to see eye to eye. And so there must be some way now in order to try and get her. If you can really see her going one way, then the other, it means that your hemispheres are actually working in harmony with one another. Here's the next one. You'll like this next one now. Just keep your eye on the one in the middle. And keeping your head forward, just shift your eyes to the left-hand side. And you should see that one going clockwise. And if you shift your eyes to the other side, you should see that going anti-clockwise. Now, in actual fact, right, you can get her to change. If you look at the middle one, when you're training your hemispheres to cooperate with one another, you should be able to cast your eyes to the left and get her to change direction. Yeah, there she goes. and then eyes to the right and get her to change the direction that she's normally going in. So this is a method. The middle one, Kate, should change. That's good. So it should go one way, then the other. If you're balanced hemispherically, right, it should go one way, then the other. But if it's only just turning one way round, it means that only one half of your brain is processing information. And let me just explain the science of this. The light's coming in photons. It's hitting the back of your retina in your eye. That's then being transformed into an electrical signal. So the photons of light, depending on their frequency, right, will send different electrical signals to the back of your head. That's called your occipital cortex. And your occipital cortex then, depending on whether that information then goes to your right hemisphere or your left hemisphere, will determine the way that you see this dancer going. And that's why two people at the same time can receive the same information but see a completely different story. And that's important to know, that we all process information in a slightly different way. But in actual fact, that when we're stressed, if we can only see her going one way, then we only ever see one side of a situation, and it's generally our side, and generally wrong as well. That would be called, I'll say a technical word now, that will be in a state of egocentricity. And that's when we're on the defensive and living on fight and flight. And most people in these days, we're living in this defensive strategy, and therefore we don't generally see the big picture. Okay, so I mean, I'm just trying to give you this because how can we change it? Well, I'm going to show you the technique, but I just want to show you something else as well. The next picture I put up, just say what you see quickly. You don't have to, but just to yourself, just say what you see quickly. And generally speaking, people see a bottle with a naked couple in it, and they love each other because you can tell that the way that the man's holding the lady. You know, there's a little message on there as well, and it's a bottle, got a cork in it, and the bottle's on like wavy water, and it looks like it's in a page. Well, in actual fact, believe it or not, children don't see that naked couple. What children see first and foremost is 9 dolphins. And this is just to show you how what's buried in our unconscious mind actually also determines how we see the world. And I had this picture for 3 months before I saw any dolphins. So I don't know what that says about my mind. But there's the first dolphin. There's its tail there, number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 9 dolphins. And this is called the message of love of the dolphins. Okay, so the whole thing is, if you're in stress, generally speaking, not only will you default to one hemisphere to process information, but you'll also be influenced by what's in your unconscious and the patterns in there as well. So ideally, what we really need to see is we really need to be able to change the way the ballet dancer works. Let me go back to that now. We need to be able to practice to change that and get her to go one way, depending on how we decide she should be going. But also, we also should be able to see not only the dolphins, but also the naked couple as well. Now, I haven't got much time for this, you know, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to try and do an hour's talk on this and put it up on my website. People pay thousands of pounds for this, but I feel like I'm being magnanimous in trying to help people. So how can we change this? Let me just say, this is part of the talk now, so I'll just go through all this, and just let me go through and back on this now and then come out. What we're really looking for is, see, there's lots of stuff on here, but you know, that's for another day. Scooby-Doo-doo-doo. I just want to show you one thing now. Let me see. Oh, come on, Joseph, sort yourself out. Breathe, just breathe. Here we go. This is what we really need to be. We need to be in this state here. We need a bit of that. That's a bit of oomph. So we do need some emotional tone, just in case we need to fight or run away. But we also need to be relaxed as well. So ideally, for our hemispheres to be working in cooperation, We need to change the way our heart works. And so that's what we're trying to go for, a state of relaxed alertness. So I'm just going to come back now. Well, I hope you've got something out of that. But the whole point is, how do you change the way your heart works to change the way your head works? This is what you do. You put your hand on your heart like that. You can put your other hand on there as well if you want to. And you get like a snuggly feeling. That's a technical word for snuggly. And then you imagine with a slight pressure that you're breathing the warmth or a lovely, positive, loving, caring feeling from your heart. Breathe it in, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop, out, 2, 3, 4, 5, stop. All the way in. And all the way out. Now, this is called, in Taoism, it's called cultivating an inner smile. And so the smile's got to come up deep from within. It's not some sort of head smile. Hello, how are you doing? And, you know, not that pretentious stuff. So you can actually look quite miserable when you're doing this. But as long as you've got joy coming from your heart and you're breathing that feeling in and out. Why is it important? Because when you breathe like this, at 6 breaths per minute. Now, it takes a bit of time because most people breathe 12 to 15 breaths per minute. So you have to learn how to breathe at 9 breaths per minute. And when you get comfy in that, go down to 8, 7, 6. And eventually, when you get to 6 breaths per minute, the brake and the accelerator in your heart start to work in cooperation with one another. So you've got the masculine and the feminine, the yin and the yang, right, working harmoniously. And what happens then is magic happens then because a third way opens up. Some people call this the way of the golden child. Some people call it some sort of triangulation. Some people say that the heart open. Whatever you want to call this, call it what you like. It's the feeling that's important. And what happens is when these two polarities are balanced, right, you actually reach a state of calmness. And it's almost in that calmness, your intuition opens up, you become inspired, and new ideas, right, come on how you can navigate through your life. But here's the thing is, it only works if you work it. And I'm suggesting to everybody on this planet, if you're not already doing this, please have a bash and do it for 3 10-minute sessions a day for 90 days. So you can actually put some lovely music on that brings with it that nice peaceful feeling and breathe that feeling all the way in and all the way out. I have a little mantra that goes with this. Some of you won't like it, but I'm going to say it anyway. You can breathe in the light and breathe out the shite. That's a little Merseyside or Liverpool expression. So it's a cleansing thing. Breathe in the light, collect all the gunge that's been blocking your expression and breathe it all the way out so that you can make space to express who you really are from the deepest level of your being. And that to me is what's called the I am presence, or your soul's purpose, or whatever you like. I'm not a religious person. I dumped all that stuff a long time ago. This is really more to do with quantum science and quantum physics and subtle energy medicine. So I don't know whether that's been helpful at all, but all I'm saying to you is, if you're emotionally reactive, stop, zip it. Do this breathing until you feel calmness coming, and then make the next choice, because it's almost like your head will open up and you'll get a different menu of options, much more positive options, much more balanced, much more realistic options. Because I know for some people it's like hell at the moment, but can I just assure you, you're not in hell actually. You're being guided out of hell into purgatory and on the steps to heaven. And purgatory means a cleansing process. So that's what seems to be happening across the planet. I know I go on a lot, but I hope you found that some useful. Now, the other things that can enhance this, cold water dipping, but you must be careful. If you've got any heart complaints or anything like that, you need to talk to your GP or your health professional and take in these things. Cold water showers like the Wim Hof method. But as I say, please be responsible and gradually work your way into this, because what that tends to do is reset the nerves, the wiring in your body. And it will also reset the way your endocrine glands, the way your glands work as well. Tai Chi, breathing all the way in, breathing all the way out. You can do some Qigong exercises. All these different things. Pick something that you feel inclined towards and that you feel attracted towards and give it a fair trial. You know, you might want to go to church and sit there quietly because hardly anybody's in church now, and you can find a nice quiet place in there. You know, when I was in the hospital, there used to be a chapel there that nobody went into. They used to think I was like a holy doctor. They didn't know what I was doing in the chapel. Anyway, that's another story. So there you are. I hope that you found that interesting. Other things now. So colors, using colors, you know, drawing, you know, trying to activate really the right side of your brain as well as your left. And is one side better than the other? No. When they work together, that's when the sacred union happens and all the magic starts to go forward, you know. And I do know that lots of people through in these shifting times are going through hell. I am myself at the moment, to be truthful. But, you know, I have to put my hand on my heart. And this is the process that I need to trust here, that my intuition will inspire me with the correct actions to take. And then it's up to me to ground that by taking the action. Because there's a phrase, a bit religious, but I'm going to say it: faith without works is dead. So you can have all the faith in the world that things are going to happen, but if you don't take the first steps, nothing's going to get grounded. So there you go. I'm turning into the Pope now, or not, maybe not the Pope. That's probably not a good thing to say. So on that note, I'm going to love yous and leave yous, and I hope to speak to you all and see you all again soon. Ta-ra.